everyone, I'm Lena Banks, certified financial planning professional and small business coach based here in Austin, Texas. Welcome back to Financial Therapy for the Week. I'm excited to get real people talking about how we can all be more secure and confident in our financial decision making, and ultimately how we can all have a greater sense of well-being overall. That's what this show is about. So before we get started, if you've been enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, and give us a review wherever you're listening or watching. Okay, let's get started. Today is kind of an interesting episode. I had really only intended to do one episode about how budgets are boundaries, and now it's kind of expanded into this three-part series. So we first talked about budgets are boundaries and how people don't like making budgets. So 4 reasons why you don't have a budget, and it's mostly because we like avoiding the probability of running into fear or denial or obligation, shame, guilt that we can't manage, or we are really confident in our financial management skills and we feel we don't need a budget to kind of be a check and balance. And that is also untrue. I think no matter how adept you are at managing your finances, checking in on them on a regular basis, setting some sort of schedule, keeping yourself accountable, and your family members accountable, anyone else who is financially impacted by your personal financial decisions, it's a good thing to have a budget for those folks. So today, let me go back. We talked about the 4 reasons why you don't have a budget, 4 hard truths about why you don't have a budget. And then in episode 2, we talked about 3 steps to setting a budget and defining your boundaries, because it's really important to know how to actually create a budget. Creating the budget itself, there are lots of budget tools and budget apps for that, but I wanted to give you guys a little more meat on how to actually go about setting up a budget. What does a budget even mean? And so if you haven't listened to those episodes, please go back and listen to those episodes, because it'll set you up for today's episode, which is all about how to communicate and frame your budget as a boundary. And so we've talked about why you don't have a budget. We've talked about the things you need to be thinking about as you create a budget, the steps to create a budget, and then now we're talking about how to actually clearly and kindly set your boundary once that budget is created. So we're talking today all about 3 ways to frame your budget as a boundary around your own financial needs. So the first thing in communicating your budget and your boundaries clearly is to be direct and simple. You can avoid over-explaining or apologizing. It really is not the other person's concern if you are delivering the news on your budget. Ostensibly, if you've already had the conversation with your financial partner, then you all are in agreement. And so anyone else you're telling about your budget or your financial situation really just needs the basics. I can do that. I think I can't do that. Avoid over-explaining or apologizing. It really is not a thing that you should be ashamed or feel guilty in any way about. And to be quite honest, if you're setting boundaries and they work best for you, the people in your life who love and care about you are going to understand that. Now, you might receive some pushback, especially if you've been used to not setting any boundaries and the people in your life are used to you not setting any boundaries on your finances. There might be a little twinge of resentment or a little bit of, you did that last year, or we do this every year. That sense of obligation to continue to spend in the ways that you've always spent, or to do some of the things that the people in your life who you love and care about and who love and care about you are legitimately asking you to do. But if you are interested to do those things, and those are things that you value, then they should be communicated to you and you should incorporate them into your budget. That is a discussion that you're having with your financial self or your financial partner. And it's not something that's happening as an argument after the fact. If you haven't incorporated it into your budget, then the correct quote unquote answer could be something like, well, I need to look at my budget and see if that fits for this year or for this month. So the second thing is, in communicating and framing your budget as a boundary, is to be consistent. Stick to your budget. If you apologize for it or give in, it can send mixed messages. So you want to be consistent. This is especially important when you're dealing with children, or when you're dealing with someone who you are actually financially responsible for. If you've said, the budget for X is $50, that's what we're going to spend, then don't go above and beyond that, because that is teaching them that not that budgets should not be flexible, but that it really is a suggestion and not a rule. And especially when kids are young or when you're just starting out with building a budget, you want to be a little more rigid. That's saying that you have to know the rules to break them. I think that's the important thing. That's the important part of this concept to get, is that you want to be consistent in your routine and in enforcing your boundaries in order to occasionally make that choice to call an audible and be a little flexible. But you can't be flexible 100% of the time, or it's not really a budget and it's not really setting a boundary. So you can always change your mind, but the important thing is to be consistent about relying on that budget as your guidepost for how you make your financial decisions. The third thing is to be prepared for pushback from yourself, from your close family, and from others. Some people may test your boundaries, so you need to be firm and don't feel responsible for their reaction. If you've had the conversation with all of the stakeholders that are impactful to your financial situation, and you've come to some conclusions about how your budget needs to be structured, communicating that clearly and simply, and then being prepared for what you get back is really important. So be firm, but do make sure to be in agreement with your financial partner. So they are the one person who should really be able to veto any major decisions that you haven't already agreed to as part of your regular financial routine. So don't lose track of bringing your partner into the conversation. This is not a recipe for dictating what your boundaries are within the financial relationship and then, screw the other person. That's not what we're saying here. So you have to be in it to accept that discomfort and be prepared for a little bit of pushback from people around you. It's not easy to set and enforce boundaries and to hold tight to them. So those are the three ways that you want to frame your budget as a boundary around your own financial needs. Is you've got to be direct and simple in communicating it out to folks. You've got to be consistent. Do not back down on what it is that is in your budget, in your plan. And then finally, you need to be prepared for a little bit of pushback, and that's okay. It's okay. Your relationships with your loved ones and those you care about and who care about you will persist no matter if you send that $50 or not. They will persist. And if there is an emergency, if something happens and that doesn't fit into your budget and you're being asked to step up in that emergency, that's a conversation for you to have with that person in that moment. If it's an emergency and they do not have those resources and you're being asked to go outside, to open your boundary and go outside of what you have planned, that's a conversation to be having up front. And, along the way, as we've been talking about how budgets are boundaries, I hope I've been impressing on you that being able to develop a budget and then to clearly see whether or not you can actually make the stretch to help a friend or to help a family member is important. Being able to see if you need to hustle a little bit more and maybe get a side gig is important. And if you see what the problem is, where the gaps are, it does make it a little bit easier to walk through life and to know what it is that you need to do or stop doing for yourself, for your partner, for your financial future. So be direct and simple, be consistent, and be willing to accept the discomfort and pushback from the people who you love. And I'll say one more thing on this topic. Just accept all of the feelings that you have around building a budget, which sounds really simple. Accept all of those feelings as kind of a normal part of the process. There's going to be anxiety. There's going to be a lot of discomfort, lack of knowledge, feeling like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. Here's another bill. Here's another something. Oh my gosh, well, we're coming up $500 short every single month. But there's also going to be a lot of revelations. And those moments when things click for you, I promise, are going to be golden. You're going to feel so much better about your financial situation, even when you discover what the problem is. Discovering that you're $500 short every month gives you the power and the tools, the information that it takes to go and do something about it. And it gives you, honestly, the incentive to go and do something about it. We don't do much without information and incentives. So as humans, we need both things in order to act. And if you don't have the information, or if you haven't had a conversation with your partner about what you value and what your financial goals are so that you're incentivized to do something differently, then nothing changes. And so, making a budget is a pathway to change. And you can start really small with it. Start one day at a time. Setting your budget when you go out for a shopping trip or out to dinner or wherever else for a small finite purpose, and then seeing how you do is very helpful to just building that confidence and building that consistency that is necessary in making that budget a boundary for you and for your financial life, and something that doesn't protect you as much as it helps you navigate through life. So you don't need protection. You can do this. You can do these things on your own, setting these boundaries. But what it is important is that you have a resource to go back to say, okay, I'm going to make a different decision, or I'm going to make a different choice, and I see how that's going to affect my budget. Or, I'm going to stay the path. I'm just going to keep on the path that this budget has pointed me on. And because I know I'm going to meet my financial goals more quickly if I stay on track. So I hope you guys get something from these 3 episodes. The first being budgets are boundaries. 4 reasons, 4 hard truths why you don't have one. The second, 3 steps to setting a budget and defining your boundaries. And finally, budgets are boundaries. Communicating clearly and framing your budget around your financial needs. I really appreciate you guys listening in. I hope that you are enjoying the show. Please like, subscribe, send your feedback and comments. You can find the number to send those to text or calling in just below the show notes. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your week.